संसारदावा नललीढलोखा त्रणाय कारुण्यघन घना त्वं प्राप्तस्य कल्याणगुणनवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् महाप्रभु कीर्तन नृत्य गीता वादित्रमाध्यान् मनसुरसेना रोमाञ्चकम्पा श्रुतरङ्गबाजो वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणारविन्दम् श्रीविग्रहाराधननित्यनाना शृङ्गारतन्मन्दिरमजनादो युक्तश्च भक्तंश्च नियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणारविन्दम् चतुर्विधा श्रीभगवत्प्रसादो स्वादन्नतृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्घम् कृत्वैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणारविन्दम् श्रीराधिका माधवयोरपारा माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्नाम् प्रतिक्षणा स्वाधनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणारविन्दम् निकुञ्जयोनुरतिकलिसिद्धय यायालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया तत्रातिदाक्षात् अतिवल्लभास्य वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणारविन्दम् साक्षाद्धरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रे युक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव शाब्दी किन्तु प्रभुर्या प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणारविन्दम् Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado Yasya prasada nagati kutopi Anad bhagavat prasado Yasya prasada nagati kutopi Dhyayanstuvam stasya yashastri sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam 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 Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Disatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Shri Radhe. Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Baladeva Subhadra Jaya Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Sitaram 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 Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha. Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
केशवतीर्था नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे हर कमल केशवतीर्था नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय नरसिंहदेव प्रहलाद महाराज की जय वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णुभक्ति प्रदेदेवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णुभक्ति प्रदेदेवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णुभक्ति प्रदेदेवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः
वृंदाय तुलसीदेव महारानी की जय।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रियसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो यही अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो यही अभिलाषी जे तुम्हारे शरण लोय तारा वंश पूर्ण होय कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी मुराये अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास नयने हेरी बो सदा जुगल रूप रासी ये वेदारो सखीरानुगाता करो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दासे को ये नमोरा होय श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नबासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नबासी यानी कानी च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माद्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माद्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय वृंदे देवी जय वृंदे देवी वृंदे देवी जय वृंदे देवी। जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी। नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल। वृंदे देवी तुलसी देवी महारानी की जय। श्री वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय हरिप्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्ति प्रति देवी सत्यव्रताय नमो नमः। श्री वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय हरिप्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्ति प्रति देवी सत्यव्रताय नमो नमः। श्री वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय हरिप्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रति देवी सत्यव्रताय नमो नमः। श्री वृंदे देवी तुलसी देवी महारानी की जय।
चेतोदर्पणमार्जनं भवमहातावाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयकैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दं बुद्धिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतास्वादनं सर्वात्मस्नापनं परमिदयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनं नानामकारि बहुधा निजशक्तिः तत्रार्पिता नियमितस्मरणेन काला एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवं ईदृशं विहाजिनानुरागः प्रीणादपि सुनीचेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानिनामानतेन कीर्तनीय सदा हरि न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीशकामये मम जन्म निजमनीश्वरे भवता भक्तिर्हैतुकी त्वयि अयि नन्दतनुजा किङ्करं पतितां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कज स्थितधूलिसदृशं विचिन्तय नयनं जलदाश्रुधारया वदनं कर्करहृदया गिरा पुलकर्निचितं वपु कदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्रविशायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दविरहेण मे आश्रियवापादहृतां विनष्टु माम् अदर्शनामर्हतां करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पतो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नापरः हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्री चैतन्य शास्त्रकम की जय Glory to Krishna Sankirtan, which means as a part of all that has been here for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, or repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the benediction of humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can grant all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the strongest tree. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your closest devotion, service birth after birth. Musmat Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I fall into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? When will the hairs on my body stand on end? The recitation of holy names. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years old. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vague in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace and makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Putali Smata Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanami Namaste Saraswati China Visesh Manskati Satana. Shri Guru Pranama prayers Ki Jai. Om Ganyati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurunatana Shri Chaitanya Manishtam Stapitam Vena Bhutale Swayam Prabhakada Kൃപയാം ദദാതി സ്വപദാന്തികം വന്ദേ ശ്രീ ഗുരു ശ്രീയുതപദകമലം ശ്രീ ഗുരു വൈഷ്ണവാംശ ശ്രീരൂപം സാഗ്രജാതം സഹജനാദാനിതം തം സജീവം Saidvaitam Savatitam Parijana Sahitam Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitam Sa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinami Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pucharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Satarne Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namini Shiv Vasavanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vignana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuka Bhaktida Shri Guru Karuna Shakti Vigraya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruda Siddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Guru Kishwaraya Shakshad Vairagya Murtaye Ripralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Guru Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Guru Vir Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Sri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Machakalpatarabhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahapadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachase Namaha Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhaktasaktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate Jayatam Suratur Bangur Mama Bandhu Patergati Matsarva Swapadam Bhujo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vinduranya Kalpradumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simasan Hastito Shimad Radha Shiva Govinda Devo Dali Bihi Sevyamana Smaram Bhivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Venus Vanergo Pirgo Pinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're going to do the first 12 verses of the Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarna Karanam Chintamani Prakrata Sadmasukalpa Vriksha Laksha Prite Susurabhira Pipaliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevyamanu Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kvanantam Aravinda Dalaytaksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundurangam Kandarpa Kotikamaniya Vishesha Sobham Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvana Maryavamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Jibanga Lalitani Taprakasam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yaksha Sakalendri Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajam Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragam Yovayor Ratapi Manasomani Pungamanam Sobhyasti Yat Prapadisim Yavichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayitum Jagaranda Kotim Ashakti Rasti Jagaranda Chaya Yadanta Andanta Rasta Paramanu Chayanta Rastam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Dio Manajasta Tataiva Samprapya Rupam Mahima Sanyanabusa Sutta Yameva Nikama Pratitastavanti Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mati Bhavitabis Tabirya Even Nijarupa Dayakalabi Goloka Even Nivasata Kilatma Bhutta Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochaneno Santaksa Deva Hidesa Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Vichintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menatistan Anavataram Agarod Bhuvanesakinta Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumam Yo Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Okay, so now we read the English translation. You have Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme
Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock feathers, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging the garland of flowers, beautified with the moon locket, whose 2 hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shamsundar is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure, unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between the potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas, by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever-blissful spiritual rasa. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shamsundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. I worship Govinda, primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world, in the forms of Rama and Nrsimha, Vamana, etc., as its subjective portions. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanam. Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pacharine Nirvisesa Srinyavadi Paskati Dasatana. So today we're going to finish the Sri Gaur Purnima lecture that Prabhupada gave on the day after Gaur Purnima. And we are right near the end. Prabhupada says, so we have to come to that spiritual platform. We have to give up this sense gratification process. And that is the teaching of Lord Chaitanya. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu practically demonstrated how to adopt that life of pure sense gratification or pure utilization of the senses. Not mundane sense gratification, but pure sense gratification. Or pure utilization of the senses. He said, Jivera Swarupahaya Nitya Krishna Das. Jivera Swarupahaya means the real nature of the living entity is eternal servitor or eternal servant of the Lord Krishna. The same thing. What Krishna taught in the Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught also in this Bhagavad Dharma teaching. And practically he showed how to do it. That is his specialty. Lord Krishna said, Sarvadharmam Parityaja, Mami Kam Saranam Braja. You give up all your material engagements. Simply just surrender unto me. I shall give you all protection from all reaction of your past sinful activities. Because we are creating our next body in this life. So if we become sinful, or if we act only in sinful activities, then we get next body, a very lower class of body, even as the germ in the stool. You see, there are so many varieties of bodies, and if we act nicely, piously, then we get better body. Urdvam gachanti sattvasta, that's Bhagavad Gita 14th chapter, 18th verse. It says, one who acts in a mode of goodness goes up, one who acts in a mode of passion stays here, in the middle planet suffering, and one who engages in ignorant activities goes down into the animal kingdom and even lower, and just suffers all the time. So those who are acting, those who are situated in a platform of goodness, they are promoting their existential status in higher planets, their existence on higher planets. Then Madhye Tishtanti Rajasaha, and those who are in the mode of passion, they will remain here, meaning in the middle planets like the earth. And Jaganya Gunavrittista Adho Gachanti Tamasaha, and those who are very addicted to all the abominable habits, eating meat, gambling, illicit sex, intoxication, they are clearing their way to hellish life. So, to abominable life is, so those who want abominable life, they break the four principles. And that is what we as devotees are trying to avoid. We don't want to break the principles. So Lord Chaitanya's teaching, the sum and substance of his teaching is to understand that we are eternal servants of God. And if we immediately engage our energy to satisfy Krishna, then immediately we are transferred to the spiritual platform. And if we stick to those activities on the spiritual platform, then, as assured by Lord Krishna, after leaving this body, we go back to Krishna. So that is Janma Karma Chame Divyam Ivam Yoveti Tatvata Tyakva Deham Punarjanma Naitimameti Sarjana, 4th chapter, 9th verse. Let me just make sure that's right. 4th chapter, verse number 9. Yep, that's what it is. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance, my meaning Krishna's appearance, and activities does not, upon leaving the body. Okay, so then it says, so Lord Chaitanya's teaching, the sum and substance of his teaching is to understand that we are the eternal servant of Krishna. And if we immediately engage our energy to satisfy Krishna, then immediately we are transferred to the spiritual platform. And if we stick to those activities on the spiritual platform, then, as assured by Lord Krishna, after leaving this body, we go back to Krishna, Vrindavana, go back to Godhead, back to home. That is our peaceful, eternal, peaceful life. We should endeavor for that. Thank you very much. All the devotees offer obeisances to Prabhupada. And then one girl asks a question. She says, why does Krishna have an external energy? Prabhupada, why not? First of all, say, why not? What is your objection? The girl devotee, well, if he is pure, everything about him is pure. Prabhupada, he is pure. He is pure, always pure. Suppose you are a very nice girl, nice, but because you pass stool and urine, does it mean that you are bad? Does it mean that? The urine may be bad, the stool may be bad, but because you passed urine or stool, you are not bad. Is that clear? Krishna has got his external energy. That does not make Krishna bad. Try to understand it. If somebody asks, oh, you are so nice girl, why you are passing stool and urine? Is that any argument? I am just speaking on the principle of argument's sake. Is that any good argument? That because you are very good, we shall not pass stool or urine? Or because you are very good, therefore your urine and stool will also be very good? Is that any argument? So similarly, if Krishna has created this external energy, that is for his satisfaction, that's all. But why should you, if we are confident about Krishna's goodness, why should we bother about Krishna's stool and urine? Why not directly Krishna? Let Krishna pass any amount of stool and urine. We have nothing to do with that. You cannot say, oh, Krishna is all good, therefore his urine and stool. I just try to understand. His urine is also good. That is a different thing. I mean to say, if this is an argument that because Krishna is good, he should not pass urine and stool, that is no argument. It is not valid. External energy is not affecting Krishna. The urine and stool is affecting. There are some worms, they are very much attracted with the stool, you see. They are also creatures of Krishna. Similarly, the material nature, external energy of Krishna is Krishna's. Undoubtedly, it is Krishna's. But the worm class of living entities, they are attracted by stool and urine in the material world. You see, so we should not be attracted. That should be our position, because we are not going to be worms of the stool. Krishna. If there are many arguments, if you ask a question, why the government has created this criminal department, is that a valid question? The jail department is criminal department, prison, where citizens are put into jail and given trouble. So if the prisoner says why the American government has created this prison department, is that a valid question? The American government may create prison departments, but why you are interested in them, why you are going there. The real position is because you are a criminal, therefore the government has created such a department. So this material energy is created by Krishna because there are some living entities who do not want to satisfy Krishna, but satisfy their own senses. For them, there is a material creation. All right? Your field of activities here, so it is not Krishna's desire, it is fulfill your desire, because in the spiritual world, Krishna is supreme. But if you cannot tolerate Krishna supremacy, even here, there are so many, why there should be God. I am God, I am God. Are you God? But you have got this mentality that I am God. You cannot qualify yourself. You do not know what is God, what is the meaning of God. You are claiming God because you do not want to serve God. That is your mentality. So, for that lowest class of men, there is external energy, the material world, for that low class of men. They will not abide by the laws of the state. They'll repeatedly break it. Therefore, all right, you go there and do whatever you like. That is not government's intention, that people go there and indulge in unrestricted gambling and so forth. That Mr. Bhattacharya told me that sometimes some rich man goes there with all his wealth and, well, okay, that's another thing. So anyway, this girl asked that question. And Prabhupada's answering her, and that's basically the end of the lecture. No, this is a very important point. So he says, the material energy, or the material world, is created by Krishna, and it's to give the living entities a chance to rehabilitate themselves and come back to Godhead. Or if they want to stay in the material energy and suffer, then that's their choice. Okay. He says, is that clear? And the lady says, yes. There will be and then a devotee says, can we request Krishna to force us to surrender to him due to our conditioning? Prabhupada, yes, you can request him, and he sometimes forces. He puts you in such circumstances that you have no other way than to surrender to Krishna. Yes, that is special favor. That is special favor, yes. My spiritual master wanted me to preach, but I did not like it. But he forced me, yes. That is my practical experience. I had no desire to accept the sannyasa order and preach, but my spiritual master wanted it. I am not very much inclined, but he forced me. That is also done. That is special favor. When he forced me, at that time I thought that, what is this? I am committing some mistake, or what is this? I was puzzled, but a little after I could understand that it is the greatest favor shown to me. You understand? So when Krishna forces someone or somebody to surrender, that is a great favor. But generally he does not do so. But he does so to a person who is very sincere to Krishna's service, but at the same time he has got slight desire for material enjoyment. In that case, he does. He says, this foolish person does not know that material facility will never make him happy, and he is sincerely seeking my favor. So he is foolish. Therefore, whatever resource, little resource he has got for material enjoyment, I'm going to break it. Then he will have no other alternative than to surrender unto me. That is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavatam. Yasyaham anugrinanti harishita danam danai. Sanai, Yasyaham anugrinami harishita danam sanai. Krishna says, if I give a special favor, then I make my devotee poverty-stricken. I take away all his means of sense enjoyment. You see? That is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Because here in this material world, everyone is trying to be happy by earning more money, by business, by service, by this way or that way. But in the special cases, Krishna makes his business or service unsuccessful. Do you like that? Prabhupada laughs. At that time, he has no other alternative than to surrender to Krishna. You see? But sometimes, when we are unsuccessful in our business attempt or earning attempt, we become sorry that, oh, Krishna is so cruel upon me that I could not trust in this. But that is his favor, special favor. You should understand like that. Okay, so that's the end of the lecture, and Prabhupada gives that personal experience at the end, where he was reluctant to take sannyas. He didn't really want to go out in the open world and preach, but his spiritual master forced him. And then Krishna basically made him go bankrupt. And then he had to, eventually he left his family and took sannyas. And then he had so many problems. He was seriously injured by a bull in Vrindavan. He ended up in the hospital and on his back, and he was suffering. And he was thinking, maybe I did something wrong. But then, he decided that, no, I haven't done anything wrong. And he continued trying to be Krishna conscious, trying to preach. Eventually, he came to the United States and spread the movement all over the world. So he didn't give up. But he came to the United States with $7. Would you do that? Come to the United States? No. And by the way, you wouldn't get in now. You'd have to prove you have money. But at that time, he was able to get in just with $7. You see all the difficulty he went through. And then for almost 1 year, he was not getting anywhere. And then one guy tried to kill him. And what happened was he ran away to get away from that person. And then he knocked on the door of the only person that he knew that was, who wasn't a disciple yet, but it was Mukunda Das. And his wife answered the door and said, yes. She saw Prabhupada. She said, yes, Swamiji, what do you want? He said, well, I have no place to stay tonight. And she said, well, you can't stay here. And she closed the door. So she went back into bed with her I guess they were girlfriend, boyfriend at that time. They might have been married, I'm not sure. And Mukunda said, who was that? She said, oh, that's that old Swami. He said, the old Swami? He said, what did he want? She said, well, he didn't have a place to stay. And you closed the door on him? He said, yes, we don't want him here tonight. He said, no, and he jumped out of bed. He opened the door, Prabhupada was still there. He said, Swamiji, what's the matter? He said, I don't have anywhere to stay. He said, come in. He told his wife, get out of the bed. He said, we're going to go somewhere else tonight. We'll go to a hotel. You stay here, Swamiji. It's a true story. That's how difficult it was for him to establish the movement. But eventually, he rented, with the little money that he had, he got 1 month's rent, a small shop called I'll think of the name in a minute. And he started a small temple, and he had one little room also where he could stay. It was a one room, a small apartment, and then this small shop. And he didn't have the second month's rent. He didn't know if he was going to get it or not. And the only prasadam he had was an apple. He would cut the apple in 7 pieces and give a little piece to each one of the people that came. And he was keeping a ledger of any donations that he got. He was getting like, $1.58. And he spent over $1 to buy some apples. That's the way he started, right? But fortunately, he made some people, devotees, he initiated them, and he was able to make the second month's rent, and so forth. And little by little, he built up this gigantic movement. But you have to understand how much he had to suffer to do it. It was not easy. And at one point, he was thinking of going back to India. He inquired about, how much it would cost. And then he decided, no, I'm going to stay. And then, after he did make some devotees, one of them revolted against him and went to the immigration, American immigration people, and told them this guy is here illegally. And they forced Prabhupada to leave, and he went to Canada. And he couldn't come back to the United States for at least, it was almost a year. So he had so many problems in the beginning. Then he had a heart attack. And he was in the hospital. He almost died. I'm just explaining a few of the things in those first 2 years that were very, very difficult for him. But he didn't give up. Okay, so now I want to discuss something else. This says the special spiritual benefits of following Lord Chaitanya. And it says, in devotional service, we are supposed to be engaged in service without any expectation. That is, we do service, but we're not expecting to get anything back because of the service. But because of our deep-rooted tendencies, we always expect something in return while doing different kinds of devotional activities. It is not so easy to curb these tendencies unless we come to the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, where the Lord himself glorifies trees as Mahabhagan, most fortunate, for performing great activities without any expectation. It is very important for us to imbibe this quality in our life. So there's a whole chapter in the Srimad Bhagavatam where Lord Krishna is glorifying trees and showing how they are rendering service, and they don't ask for anything in return, and they render a lot of service to humanity. So in the 10th canto, 22nd chapter, verses 31 and 32, Lord Krishna said, he's speaking to different devotees, and he says, just see these greatly fortunate trees whose lives are completely dedicated to the benefit of others. Even while tolerating the wind, rain, heat, and snow, they protect us from these elements. And then he continues with two other verses where he praises the trees as great personalities, as they have dedicated their lives for others by giving them roots, flowers, fruits, shade, bark, wood, fragrance, sap, pulp, and shoots. After reciting the wonderful verses, Lord Krishna instructs how the living entities should attain the ultimate perfection by performing welfare activities for the benefit of others, just like the most fortunate trees, Mahabhagan. So you see, the vision of Lord Chaitanya is way, way different than our vision. He's glorifying the trees because they're rendering service to people and not getting anything in return. Rather, they just have to stand in one place and suffer for thousands of years sometimes. But they render the service without asking for anything in return, and it's very good service. You can build houses with the wood. You can use the wood for making a fire and cooking food or getting heat. You can use the wood for medicine. You know, many of these trees are medicinal trees. And there's so many things that we're getting from the trees, and the trees are not asking for anything in return. So Lord Chaitanya is explaining that. And then he says in 10th canto, 22nd chapter, 35th verse, Etavaj janma safal yam dehinam iha dehisu pranayar arte diyavacha shreya acharanam sada. It is the duty, and this is a wonderful verse. This I'm gonna write something and put it on the Northwest Shares website and also on the Temple's website. And it says, it is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. What a wonderful verse. Let me read that again. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his or her life, wealth, intelligence, and words. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, the best welfare activity is to give Krishna consciousness to other living entities because it is the ultimate welfare activity. Lord Krishna specifically expects us to give 4 things for the benefit of others: our life, our wealth, our intelligence, and our words. Right? Pranay, Artha, Diya, Vacha. Pranay, Artha, Diya, Vacha. Okay. The question may arise in our minds, Why does Krishna want everything from us? But we have to understand all the above four things are given to us by him to be used in his service only and for no other reason. So that's a very beautiful sentence. It says, the question may arise in our minds, why Krishna wants everything from us? Life, wealth, intelligence, words. But we have to understand that all the above four things, life, wealth, intelligence, and words, are given to us by him to be used in his service only and for no other reason. Life. We have to take inspiration from Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, who sacrificed his entire life for saving suffering souls like us. Following in his footsteps, his sincere followers do the same in so many different parts of the world. Anyway, in this Kali Yuga, we do not know how and when our life will continue. We may go any moment by a bomb blast or accidents or even natural deaths. Why not let it be of some use? Why not use our life to benefit others before we leave this world? Wealth. Rupa Goswami recommends 50% of our income to be spent in Krishna consciousness activities. But at least we should start with 5%, if not more, to be used in his service or otherwise. It will be forcibly withdrawn by the Lord at the time of death anyway. So he's recommending at least 5% or more right away. And then when we take sannyas, or we renounce everything, then 50% we should give to the Lord, 25% to our family, 25% for emergencies. And that's the way we should divide our wealth. Well, before we take sannyas or before we become completely detached, start with 5 or 10%. Usually Catholic Church is 10% of our income. Okay, number 3, intelligence. Real intelligence is to study the Shastras and meditate deeply on the instructions. And then words, real words are those which enlighten others with transcendental wisdom on the subject matter of bhakti. Rest, everything else, and so everything else that emanates from our mouth will only force us to surrender to the material nature. So in other words, we should only speak shastrically, not talk nonsense. And then, okay. So now, the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 9th chapter, 41st verse says, Bharata Bhumite man haila manushya janma yar, janma sartaka karikara paro upakar. One who has taken his birth as a human being in the land of India, Bharatvarsha, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all their people. Well, let's see. I guess everybody here was born in India, is that right? Except the two boys. So here's an order you're getting directly from Lord Chaitanya. Now, I was not born in India, but every one of you were born in India. Right? So you have a direct order here. Bharata bhumite haila manushya janmakar, janmayar, janmasartak karikara paro upakar. One who has taken his birth, or his or her birth, as a human being in the land of India, Bharatvarsha, should make his or her life successful and work for the benefit of all people. Now this is the purport. The magnanimity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is expressed in this very important verse. Although he was born in Bengal, and Bengalis therefore have a special duty toward him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is addressing not only Bengalis, but all inhabitants of India. It is the land of India that actual human civilization can be developed. Human life is especially meant for God realization. As stated in the Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Anyone who takes birth in the land of India, Bharatvarsha, has the special privilege of being able to take advantage of the instruction and guidance of the Vedic civilization. He automatically receives the basic principles of spiritual life. For 99.9% of the Indian people, even simple village farmers and others who are neither educated nor sophisticated, believe in the transmigration of the soul, 1. Believe in past and future lives, 2. Believe in God, 3. And naturally want to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his representative, 4. These ideas are the natural inheritance of a person born in India. India has many holy places of pilgrimage, such as Gaya, Benares, Mathura, Prayaga, Vrindavana, Haridwara, Rameshwaram, and Jagannath Puri. And still people go there by the hundreds and thousands, although the present leaders of India are influencing people not to believe in God, not to believe in a next life, and not to believe in a distinction between pious and impious life. And although they are teaching them how to drink wine, eat meat, and become supposedly civilized, people are nevertheless afraid of the 4 activities of sinful life, namely illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. And whenever there is a religious festival, they gather together by the thousands. We have actually experienced this. Whenever the Krishna consciousness movement holds a Sankirtan festival in a big city like Calcutta, Bombay, Madras, Ahmedabad, or Hyderabad, thousands of people come to hear. Sometimes we speak in English, but even though most people do not understand English, they nevertheless come to hear us, even when imitation incarnations of Godhead speak. In other words, the false gurus and false incarnations of Godhead. People gather in the thousands. For everyone who is born in the land of India has a natural spiritual inclination and is taught the basic principles of spiritual life. They merely need to be a little more educated in the Vedic principles. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says here, Janma sartak karikara para upakara. If an Indian is educated in the Vedic principles, he is able to perform the most beneficial welfare activity for the entire world, which is to give people Krishna consciousness. At present, for want of Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, the entire world is in darkness, having been covered by the 4 principles of sinful life: meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, and intoxication. Therefore, there is need for vigorous propaganda to educate people to refrain from sinful activities. This will bring peace and prosperity. The rogues, thieves, and debauchees will naturally decrease in number, and all of human society will be God conscious. I just see Prabhupada, the way he's explaining this is wonderful. The practical effect of our spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world is that now the most degraded debauchees, these are the people who are breaking the principles and trying to exploit others, are becoming the most elevated saints. This is only one Indian's humble service to the world. If all Indians had taken to this path, as advised by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in other words, he's saying the worst people are becoming like gurus nowadays, the scientists, the philosophers, and the fake God, so-called gods. And he's saying, this is only one Indian's humble service. He's saying, I'm just one person, and this is my humble service to the world. If all Indians take to this path of Lord Chaitanya, as advised by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, India would have given a unique gift to the world, and thus India would have been glorified. Now, however, India is known as a poverty-stricken country, and whenever anyone from America or another opulent country goes to India, he sees many people lying by the footpaths for whom there are not even provisions for 2 meals a day. There are also institutions collecting money from all parts of the world in the name of welfare activities for poverty-stricken people, but they are spending it for their own sense gratification. Now, on the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Krishna consciousness movement has been started, and people are benefiting from this movement. Therefore, it is now the duty of the leading men of India to consider the importance of this movement and train many Indians to go outside of India to preach this cult. Well, they're going outside of India, but not to preach the cult, but to gain money. See? So we have to teach these people who are here just to make money to also become Krishna conscious. So it's working to a small degree. It's not that no one is becoming Krishna conscious, but we have to go on a higher level because too many people are unnecessarily suffering. People will accept it. There will be cooperation. So he says, therefore, it is now the duty of the leading men of India to consider the importance of this movement and train many Indians to go outside of India to preach this cult. People will accept it. There will be cooperation among the Indian people and among other people of the world, and the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will then be fulfilled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will then be glorified all over the world, and people will naturally be happy, peaceful, and prosperous, not only in this life, but also in the next. For as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, anyone who understands Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will very easily get salvation or freedom from the repetition of birth and death, and go back home, back to Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore requests every Indian to become a preacher of his cult, of the cult of Lord Chaitanya, to save the world from disastrous confusion. This is not only the duty of Indians, but the duty of everyone. And we are very happy that American and European boys and girls are seriously cooperating with this movement. One should know, definitely, that the best welfare activity for all of human society is to awaken man's God consciousness or Krishna consciousness. Therefore, everyone should help this great movement. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 22nd chapter, verse 35, which is next quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, so then this very important verse, Etavaj janma safalyam dehinam iha dehisu pranay arta diya vacha shreya acharam sada. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. Okay, so that's very interesting. We're going to continue that tomorrow, and then we'll finally finish, and then go back to Srimad Bhagavatam. But I want us to talk about something else now, also, and that is, so, what is actually meant by evolution of species? Well, there's a difference between the Krishna consciousness understanding of evolution and the Darwinian, or the Darwin's understanding of evolution. So, the Darwin's explanation of evolution is evolution of bodies. But the Krishna conscious explanation of evolution is evolution of consciousness. So now, what is the difference? Someone might say, well, it's the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. It's a big difference. So let's understand that now. It says, the whole cosmic order is under me, Krishna says. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again. And under my will, it is annihilated at the end. So this is Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter, 8th verse. Pakritim swam avastabhya visrajami punah punah bhutagramam imam krishnam avasam pakritir vasat. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested, and again, and under my will, it is annihilated at the end. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, this is 9th chapter, 8th verse of Bhagavad Gita. This material world is the manifestation of the inferior energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's called Apara Prakriti. This has already been explained several times. At the creation, the material energy is let loose as the Mahatattva, into which the Lord, as his first Purusha incarnation, Mahavishnu, enters. He lies within the causal ocean and breathes out innumerable universes, and into each universe the Lord again enters as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. Each universe is in that way created. He still further manifests himself as Kishirodakshayi Vishnu, and that Vishnu enters into everything, even into the minute atoms. This fact is explained here. He enters into everything. Now, as far as the living entities are concerned, they are impregnated into this material nature. And as a result of their past deeds, they take different positions. Thus, the activities of this material world begin. The activities of the different species of living entities are begun for the very moment of the creation. It is not that all is evolved. Now, this is the difference between the Vaishnava's understanding of evolution and the Darwin's false understanding of evolution. The different species of life are created immediately, along with the universe. Men, animals, beasts, birds, everything is simultaneously created because whatever desires the living entities had at the last annihilation are again manifested. It is clearly indicated here by the word avasam that the living entities have nothing to do with this process. The state of being in their past life, in the past creation, is simply manifested again. And all this is done simply by his will, by Krishna's will. This is the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and after creating different species of life, he has no connection with them. The creation takes place to accommodate the inclinations of the various living entities, and so the Lord does not become involved. So that is the Krishna conscious view of consciousness. Consciousness evolves through the different species, but the species are immediately created when the world is created or manifested, because people have desires from previous lives, and all those people are reawakened, and they take their positions according to their previous karma. So now, what is the Krishna conscious view of evolution as opposed to Darwin's view? So there's more explanation now. The modern theory of evolution became popular in the 1800s as a result of the work of Charles Darwin and others to understand the diversity of species on Earth. Evolution has become the standard way to explain how all life came into existence and gradually evolved from simple to complex forms. Now, this is Darwin's explanation. This is not what we just heard. Prabhupada in 9.8 explains that all the species are created immediately with the creation of the universe. So there's no evolution of species. What there is, however, is evolution of consciousness of the people who take positions in the material world. Some jivas become animals or microbes or birds or snakes, that because of their previous karma. And then they can evolve gradually. The consciousness, each body has a different type of consciousness. The dog's body has a certain consciousness. The cat's body has a certain consciousness. Human body has the ability to understand all these things. The cats and dogs don't have that ability, right? So there's this very slow process of evolution of consciousness that could take millions and millions, maybe even trillions of years to come to the human form. Okay, so in other words, Darwin says is an evolution of species, a very slow process, going from one-cell amoeba. Of course, they've never figured out how the one-cell amoeba came into existence. And then they give a whole bunch of gobbledygook explanation how the one cell becomes 2 cells and 4 cells and 8 cells and 16 cells and eventually becomes a human being. It's all nonsense. There's no proof of it at all. Right? Okay, so I wanted to explain that. And Prabhupada also explains this in the 8th morning walk of the Life Comes from Life book, where he says, the evolution of consciousness. So Dr. Singh or Damodar Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, he says, Srila Prabhupada, I came across a statement in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, 8th verse, to the effect that all 8,400,000 species of living entities are created simultaneously in the beginning of creation. Is that correct? Prabhupada, yes. Dr. Singh, does that mean that there are some living entities who come directly to the human species without undergoing the evolutionary process? Srila Prabhupada, yes. Living beings move from one bodily form to another. The forms already exist. The living entity simply transfers himself, just as a man transfers himself from one apartment to another. One apartment is first class, another is second class, another is third class. Suppose a person comes from a lower class apartment to a first class apartment. The person is the same, but now, according to his capacity for payment or karma, he's able to occupy a higher class apartment. Real evolution does not mean physical development, but development of consciousness. Do you follow? Dr. Singh, I think so. Do you mean that if one falls to one of the lower stages of life, he must evolve step by step up to the higher stages? Prabhupada, yes. As you get more money, you can move to a better apartment. The apartment already exists, however. It is not that the lower class apartment becomes the higher class apartment. That is Darwin's nonsensical theory. He would say that the apartment has become high class. Modern scientists think that life has come from matter. They say that millions and millions of years ago there was simply matter, but no life. We do not accept that. Of the two energies, life and matter, life or spirit is the original, superior energy, and matter is the result, or inferior energy. Do they exist simultaneously? Dr. Singh asks. Prabhupada, yes, but spirit is independent and matter is dependent. For example, I can live even without my hands or legs. If they were amputated, I could survive. Therefore, I am not dependent on my hands and legs. My hands and legs are dependent on me, the spirit soul within my body. Okay, so that answers the question. We know that there's no evolution of bodies. Bodies are created right away, the beginning of creation. But there's an evolution of consciousness from one body to another. So the microbe has its consciousness, the dog has its consciousness, the elephant has its consciousness, and the human being has a much more higher consciousness than all of those species. Now, another important thing Prabhupada explains, and we'll stop with right here. So the question is, do life and matter come simultaneously? Okay, we'll discuss that tomorrow. This is very interesting, because if you understand this, then you begin to get a much clearer understanding of Darwin's nonsense and what is actually the truth. Okay, any questions? Yes.
Oh, you had a question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay.
If you're saying that that there's no such thing as evolving to a different, like there was if you're saying there was no matter on earth, if the scientist theory was there was only matter on earth long ago and there was no humans
Yes.
or life,
Yes.
is that not true? Like if Krishna was to explain it, how would he say it?
No. First there are people. Then matter is there also. They're both coexistent. There's always been people, living entities. The Darwin is saying, no, at one point there was only matter. And then by some kind of combination, people were created. It's a complete nonsense theory. And the fossil record proves it. As far back as you go, you'll find there are living entities and matter. You don't get to a point where there's no living entities. Okay? You understand? There always have been living entities and matter. They coexist. Darwin says, no, at one point there was only matter, and then one living entity, an amoeba, one cell amoeba came. He can't explain how the amoeba came. So it's a nonsense theory. Okay.
So Maharaj, soul is same and the consciousness comes from the soul.
Yes.
So is it the limitation of the body
Yes.
that exposes the amount of consciousness that can be expressed?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Like a cat has a body, right? So why can't the cat learn English and become devotee?
Correct.
Not possible.
So that's where Maya Devi defines all these, whatever, 8.4 million species,
Yeah.
and based on our
Each
desires
one has a
and
different consciousness.
yeah. I mean, obviously, only in the human form, the consciousness can be elevated or degraded.
Yes.
In all other forms, it is set.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. And you see that. You don't see the elephant start chanting Hare Krishna.
Correct.
Of course, Lord Chaitanya was able to make them do that, but that's a different thing. That's because he's Krishna himself.
Haribol.
Okay.
Maharaj, was Ravana considered to be spiritual?
Well, he knew a lot of things. He knew a lot of things. Just like Vivekananda, he knew a lot of things also, but he was a Mayavadi. But he could explain about Lord Rama, he could explain about Krishna also. If you ever read his speech in Chicago, he spoke a little bit about Krishna and Rama. He knew all those things, but he was following his guru, who said that the Supreme Personality is Durga. So he was. See, it's like this. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing, because you can make many mistakes. So Vivekananda, he had a lot of knowledge, but the wrong conclusions. But he was a very good speaker, very, very good speaker. He knew how to juggle words. He was expert at it. But he was following his guru, who was not a pure devotee. And he also believed that Mother Durga was the Supreme Personality. So you can know a lot of things and still be a nonsense. There's a lot of people like that. They're big scientists, big philosophers, but they're nonsense. So that's called Maya Aprita Jnana. They know so much that they're confused. about what the actual truth is.
Yeah,
Okay.
Maharaj, is there a correlation between being spiritual versus being good person?
Well, being spiritual means that you believe in God and you surrender to God and you dedicate your life to serving Krishna. And being a good person, yeah, you're still engaged in sense gratification. But it's a higher level of sense gratification, not that low level of the rajasic and tamasic. But there's still sense gratification going on. You look up, husband and wife die a few minutes apart from each other. Look it up. So you see in pictures, this man looks like he's almost dead. His wife looks like she's almost dead. But they're both in this hospice, and they both have tubes in their nose and all over the place. But they're holding hands, and then the husband dies first, and then the wife dies next. So right up to the last minute, they were involved in mundane relationship. Do you see anything?
One couple married for 71 years die within 4 minutes of each other.
Yeah. Did you see a picture of them? You got a picture? Yeah, there you are.
Sitting this one.
Yeah, he's got a bigger picture.
Ah, okay.
Can I see?
So they're not bad people, right? They're not devotees, but they're not bad people. But they're still involved in bodily attachment. They even die at the same time. So you can be a good person and not really Krishna conscious. So that's one example right there. They never killed anybody, they never stole, they never lied. But they were connected right up to the moment of death, and they're going to take birth again. You know, they ate meat, so they're going to probably take birth as animals, but they'll be together. You know, one tail, 4 legs. Okay.
And Maharaj, last question.
Yeah.
And Ravana was destined to be bad because of the curse. But is there any other reason that why he ended up being bad other than the curse? The curse is the main reason he destined to be bad.
The curse was because he raped that Apsari. He raped Ranga. I think her name was Ranga Devi or something like that. And then he was cursed that if he ever tried to rape anybody else, he would immediately die. That's why he was not able to defile Sita Devi. She had to surrender to him. And she never did. So I don't know which curse you're talking about, but he was cursed by...
The curse, Jaya Vijaya, initial, that they had to take 3 births.
Oh, okay.
So is that why they are destined to be, Ravana is destined to be bad? There is nothing you can change about that.
Well, he had to play the role of a bad person. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So that Krishna could fight with him. Krishna wanted to fight, but he doesn't choose low-class people to fight with.
Yeah.
He chooses a devotee that might have made some kind of a mistake. So they chose to become demons 3 times so that they could go back quicker to Vaikuntha.
Okay.
They could have been born as devotees for 7 lifetimes, but they chose to become demons for 3 lifetimes so that they could go back to Godhead quicker.
Okay.
Yeah. Hari Bol. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Maharaj, in today's lecture, on that Gaur Purnima lecture, there was one question. Devotee asked, can we request Krishna to force us to surrender to him due to our conditioning?
Well, yeah,
So-
Prabhupada gives the example.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my question is should this prayer be by advanced devotees only, or like a neophyte can also pray like this? This is like
Well,
very...
anyone can pray like that. anyone. Prabhupada didn't pray like that. But that's what happened to him. Because his guru wanted him to be a preacher, you see. But you can pray like that if you want to. Why not? But then what's going to happen is Krishna's going to take everything away from you, everything material, and you get devastated. Now, most people, when they get devastated, they get angry at God. But the devotee, anybody who gets devastated doesn't feel good about it at all. But the devotee understands this is actually Krishna's special mercy. Now I can just focus my life completely on Krishna consciousness. But the materialist who gets angry at God and says, I hate God, look what he did. You see, so it's a dangerous thing. Most people will hate God, will blame God, and think he's mean because he took everything away from them. And then worse than that is they'll commit suicide. Even worse than that, they'll do what they call honor killing of their wife and kids. That's the worst thing you can do. But the devotee, he'll take it as the mercy of the Lord that, actually, I was not able to break my attachment to sense gratification. But now that I've lost everything, I'm just going to take full surrender to Krishna. And this is actually Krishna's mercy on me. So, it's a dangerous thing. Most people will not see it like that. Haribol. Okay, go right ahead. Let's hurry up. Go ahead. Shri Guru.
Shri Guru Charara Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadba.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma.
Vandamui Sabadana Te
Mandamu Isabadana Mate
Chahara Prasade Bai E Bhavatoriya Jai
Janara Prasade Bai Bhavatoriya Jai
Krishna Prapti Hoy Jai Hoy Te
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoy Te
Kapad Bhava Kya Chitate Koriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Koriya Akya
Arna Koriya Mane Asha
Arana Koriya Mane Asa
Shri Guru Charare Rati Aise Uta Bhagati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha
Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Asa
चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशिता
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाशा जाते
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाशा जाते
वेदे गाय जहर चरिता
वेदे गाय जनर चरित
श्री करु करुण सिंधु आजम जनर बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनर बंधु
लोकेना लोकेरा जीवाना
लोकेनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना
हा हा प्रभु खरो दया देह मोरे पद छाया
आहा प्रभु कोर दया देह मोरे पद छाया
एबे गायस गुसुप त्रिभुवाना
सुखी भुवाना
शिल प्रभु पात पिता पवाना
प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना
जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा
जय प्रभुपादा 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 जय प्रभुपादा
जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा
जय गुरुदेवा गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा
नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांता स्वामी नित्यानामिने
नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्य नामिने
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाशता विशतारिणे
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गौरधर श्रीवत्सरित गौर भक्त वृंदा
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हर गोर हरि बोल हरि बोल तय गोरा attachment to his lotus feet is a perfect friend that fulfills all desires. He is my dark and dark. He, not. He is the Lord, birth of the birth. From him ecstatic Brahma emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sang his character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, the master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto me. Little feet. Spread all over 3 worlds. Lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Very good.
cleric.